JayEmm On Cars is sponsored by Car Vertical. With just a registration number, or even better, a VIN, Car Vertical will search over 20 European databases to find out whether any car you're looking at has a hidden past. They can see if a vehicle was used as a taxi, stolen, suffered fire damage, or involved in a crash, even when it wasn't written off, so could pass other checks. Car Vertical is now an essential tool in my car buying kit, putting all the information I need to know together in one easy-to-read report. Even better, if you follow the link in the description down below, you'll get 10% off. A big thank you to them for being today's sponsor.
Hello everybody and welcome to my review of a 2017 Audi SQ5. I do a lot of Audis on this channel, thanks in part to an excellent relationship with the company, but that does mean on occasion I feel like I somewhat overdose on them, and so I've taken a little break, and this is the first time back in the seat of an Audi for quite some time. Believe it or not, this is actually a very unusual car too, because Audi of late have been, I think, a little bit uncertain about what they're doing with some of their models. They still don't seem to know whether they really want to stick to their guns and keep making diesels or not. Because you had, for example, the SQ7, which was available exclusively in a diesel, and now you can only get it in a petrol. The SQ5 you could have in both petrol or diesel, and now you can only get that in diesel. The S4, similarly, always petrol, and now only diesel. So really it's a bit of a mixed bag. Times are a-changing at Audi, I would say. Now this car is one of the very last you could buy with a petrol engine, specifically a turbocharged 350 horsepower petrol V6. It's also one of the last cars to sneak in before the 2018 emissions and noise changes that happened, so you've still got a little bit of volume through the exhaust at the back. And actually, let's get straight onto that, shall we? Because, I'm sorry, Audi, there are things I can understand and things I will forgive, but completely and totally fake exhaust tips, which aren't even that convincing, on an SQ5, nah. No. What were you thinking? I could kind of, maybe, sort of see it on, you know, like a 2-litre diesel Q5 Sportline or something. But on the SQ5? No, that's not cool. Oh, also got the world's worst piece of tarmac, which is a vital part of my test route. Actually, this took it quite well. Now you do have, of course, the usual selection of driving modes, and let's see how this has been set up, shall we? So, got individual, and it looks like this car's owner Jonathan has set everything up exactly how I would have it. So engine and gearbox are dynamic, suspension is comfort, steering is comfort, and engine sound is dynamic. So I'm going to use individual mode for a little bit. Now, one thing I do really like about this car is with this facelift interior, they haven't gone all out with the touch screens. Most other Audi products now, you have touch for, well, everything, whereas this, you've got a screen up here. Yes, it's an iPad stuck to the dash, don't like them, but it's a fact of life now. You've got down here a little trackpad. Okay, not ideal, a little bit Lexus, so you can type things into that, or, you know, scribble stuff on there. But you've also got a little rotary dial. You've got physical buttons for a lot of the hotkeys, and it just is a little bit more sensible to use. You also have proper, nice controls for all your HVAC stuff, so most of that can be operated without needing to take your eye off the road or take your eye off the road for that long. You have here Audi's now sort of classic virtual cockpit display, which works really rather well. I like it. It's a nice setup. This car, believe it or not, actually replaced an M3 competition, the F80 generation, and its owner said the problem with that was it's very stiff, very fast, you know, very fun on the right day, but there were only about 3 of those a year because it just wanted to try and kill him all the time. This is his way of trying to get just a little bit more sensible with his daily, but still being able to have fun on occasion. Now let's drop a gear using one of the piddly little paddles behind the steering wheel, although in fairness, they're about the same as you get in an R8. In here, just about okay. R8, not okay. Let's go. This is actually really very good. It's quite comfortable, it can carry some speed, the engine is not super responsive, but responsive enough, better than some of the later turbo diesels, I would say, even the hybrid ones, which never really worked. Gearbox, okay, not great. The power is sort of generally fairly flat. So once you get to about, I don't know, 2.5, 3,000 RPM, all the way from there to the red line, it's not really sort of feeling like it's getting any faster, but it's fine. For this kind of car, it's absolutely okay. The best thing is just how it rides the road, because the suspension actually works. A lot of cars I've been down that road in, and it's a terrifying experience. That's why I use it. This does exactly what you want it to. And that's not always a given, because I've been in some pretty damn uncomfortable 4x4s. As you try and make these things sportier and sportier, that generally means making the suspension even stiffer, and that's just wrong, particularly for a car which is obviously the daily. Now, as a daily, how does this fare? Well, actually, quite well. This car is also in pretty much my kind of specification, because things Jonathan really wanted were this nice deep blue paintwork. I really approve. It's just a little bit more interesting than grey, black or silver. He also wanted the B&O stereo, which is okay, if not brilliant. This car does also have some carbon fibre trim in, but I don't think he was fussed about that. He wanted the wheels, which also I'm indifferent to. However, he did also demand a sunroof. Lovely. Nice big item it is too. Opens quite a way, and that means it's a lovely thing for a day like today, so you feel like you've got the wind in your hair. Well, you don't feel like you've got the wind in your hair, you do have the wind in your hair. It's very nice. It's also very handy if you do have children in the back, because they always feel a little bit happier in a car where they can see out the roof too. Feels less claustrophobic for them. These seats are very comfortable, and the car's even been doing actually not terrible MPG. Not stellar, but not terrible. It's averaged over the last sort of 100 miles or so about 27 to the gallon. And the diesels will be a bit better on that front, but of course a lot of people just don't want a diesel anymore. So, back to national speed limit. Second gear, let's see what she's like. And for down. Gear change is brisk, if not ultra fast. It's a good item. This is an 8-speed automatic in here. One of the oddities with the SQ5 is that I don't believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong here, an RSQ5. I'm sure there's an RSQ3, and I know there's an RSQ8. Is there an RSQ7? There's definitely an RSQ8 anyway, because it's essentially the Urus and the Cayenne Turbo and the Bentayga. But they never really bothered going after the sort of X5M market. This is quite some way down on power to any of the hot BMWs. Very strange thing. Other things I don't like, although it's got the nice carbon fibre trim, then up here you have this sort of plasticky feeling stuff, which is not good enough. Headline fabric, that's okay. For something which is a 5, particularly an SQ5, I would expect, okay, I'm not going to say I'm expecting leather here, but I expected just sort of nicer vinyl or something, you know. Yeah, the door handles all very plasticky, that kind of stuff. The switches are classic Audi, you'll find them anywhere. Steering wheel is quite nice in the hand, hasn't got all the sort of functionality of some of the other Audi wheels, but it's got everything that you would conceivably need on it. You've got keyless entry and keyless start, that's all groovy. View out is pretty decent too, you can see just about everything. Visibility behind is good too. This sunroof is tinted, which means I'm not getting seared as I sort of drive along, and hopefully it means the place won't be a furnace if you do leave it in a car park for extended periods. Brakes are fairly decent too, although there's just a little bit of dead travel at the top of the pedal. Yeah, it doesn't really do that much for the first sort of half an inch of travel, but once you've got through that, it's actually perfectly okay. In terms of reliability, Jonathan hasn't actually had this car for very long. In fact, he'd actually offered it to me for review before he'd even picked it up. That's commitment to the cause, I would say. Thank you very much. And I'd also like to say a lovely shout out to the gentleman I met this morning, whose name I tragically did not get, but he's a 69-year-old gentleman with a gammy leg who turned up in a 996 Turbo S at the cafe I stopped at in the morning, the Super Sausage Cafe just off the A5, and he's just bought himself a Lotus Elise race car. Good on you, sir. You're doing petrol head retirement the right way. It's quite smooth as well, actually, when you put your foot all the way down on the pedal. Some of these cars like to just lurch forward. This one doesn't at all. And let's try the usual 3-point hill start, tight turn, torture test, patent pending. Oh, someone's there, so I'm going to have to do a slight alternate version. That's right, it's going to be a backwards hill start. In a car like this, this sort of thing should be nice and easy. So what functions do we have? Okay, we've got a rear camera. We've got some parking sensors, front and rear. That's pretty good. Auto dipping side mirror, that's quite handy too. Yep, perfect, nice and easy. Pulling out of a junction there, just a bit of delay. Put my foot down, I thought it was going to go, but it didn't, so that's slightly annoying. Nothing to write home about, I've had worse, but worth mentioning. I apologise in advance if you don't really get much exhaust noise, but I did what I could. As all-rounder daily driving cars go, this is very good. I'll concede that. The X3 that I drove a while ago, I think felt perhaps a little bit nicer inside. This doesn't really feel much different in size, despite technically being a class up. I haven't actually checked the measurements because I wasn't really thinking about it, but this is really nice, easy to place. Q7, Bentayga, those cars, they can be quite daunting. They can be a little bit sketchy to drive in sort of tight roads, places like this. This is absolutely fine. In terms of just your ordinary normal stuff, this is about as big as I'd ever want a car to get. Ride comfort is absolutely fine. There's a little bit of jitter to it, but that I know is the road rather than the car. And when you press on, it works really well. Steering, of course, is not sensational, fairly typical Audi, but it's direct and it does what you tell it to. And yes, if you push on, it will start to wash wide a little bit, but that's okay. The engine is responsive enough, it's got plenty of torque from low down, it's predictable, it's dependable, you've got all-wheel drive, so it's got ridiculous amounts of traction on a day like today. I think you'd have to be doing something monumentally stupid to get the tyres to just break away under acceleration. The noise is disappointing, even with the thing in dynamic mode. There really isn't much of one at all. Heaven knows what it's like in regular. Let's try, shall we? Let's put this car into, you've got off-road, you've got efficiency, you've got comfort mode. So I'll put it into comfort mode now, and yeah, honestly, it just sounds the same. It probably just lost the sort of fart on upshift, I guess. Let's see. Oh, it still does that. So let's try dynamic. See if that's any different. Oh yes, the suspension firms up. You can feel that quite a bit. That's unpleasant. Yeah, no, honestly, there's no difference in sound. None whatsoever. Steering isn't really any better in dynamic either, by the way, so you may as well just leave it in comfort because it's light and it suits this type of car. Okay, the interior is maybe a little bit oppressive, but it's Audi and you can spec different stuff if you like, but this is what people tend to want from a German car these days, so fine, whatever, don't care anymore. This is actually much the same way as the X3 was a bit of a surprise. A nice, pleasant car to drive. It does the job it's designed to well. It's got space for you, the family, and all of their things. It's got enough poke that when you do find yourself on a road you can enjoy it, and it's comfortable enough that you can make some serious progress even over uneven terrain. You can convince yourself it'll make a formidable off-roader. I mean, it must do, because there's an off-road setting. In truth, it'll probably be okay as a mild off-roader. Tyres probably going to be your limiting factor there, and what on earth are you going to do to the underside of the car? But for the 1 or 2 days of serious weather that we get in this country, it's going to do just fine. The Audi SQ5 then, it's not particularly exciting, but it does do the job very well. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.